Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2011 romantic comedy titled From Prada to Nada. Now, From Prada to Nada runs for 1 hour and 47 minutes long. It is directed by Becker. It is produced by Gigi Pretzker, Linda McDonough, Rosanna Arau, Gary Gilbert, and Lisa Elzy. The script was written by Fina Torres. Sorry, I can't see without my glasses. Luis Alfaro and Craig Fernandez. It is composed by Heitor Pereira, the cinematography by Hector Ortega, and it was edited by Bradley McLaughlin. And the stars of the movie are Camilla, Belle, Alexis, Vega, Wilmer, Valderrama, Nicholas D'Agosto, April, Bowlby, Kuno, Becker, Adriana, Barraza, Karla, Souza, Alexis, Ayala, Pablo, Cruz, Guerrero, and Catalina, Lopez, and Luis Rosales. Now, From Prada to Nada is a provocative, whimsical story about a duo of sisters, Nora and Mary, played by Camilla, Belle and Alexa Vega, who are a couple of spoiled sisters who live in the trendy part of Los Angeles called Rodeo Drive. So, it's their father's 55th birthday. They have everything all set up for him, the cake, the streamers, the balloons, the hats, the horns, you name it. And things start to go off very well, but then all of a sudden, Daddy had a sudden heart attack and passed away. Yeah, I know, it's a shame, when a father dies at 55 years old, it's sad no matter what. And the thing is that these two girls, well, they lost their mothers several years ago. So they're virtually now in their late teens, early to mid-20s, and they're now parentless. Now, you would think that because of the fact that, the guy's rich, he's successful, he lives in a nice big fancy house, they seem to be somewhat oozing in their richness, in their privileged lifestyle. They seem to drive fancy cars, they wear trendy clothes, and they always seem to carry a lot of expensive stuff with them. So you would think that their father probably left them a big fortune in his will. Well, it just so happens that the only thing Daddy left his daughters was nothing but heartbreak. It has been revealed from his illegitimate son Gabe that for many years he's been financially bankrupt, but he just never had the heart to tell them. So in his will, he actually gave the house, the estate, to his illegitimate son, Gabe. So he, along with his selfish girlfriend, move in, and eventually they kick the girls out of the house. So now Nora and Mary are left to go live with their aunt, their maternal aunt, in the not-so-trendy part of East LA, which is pretty much almost like a barrio, or almost like a... Well, let's just face it, it's not exactly a rich area that they have been so accustomed to. So this sets out the beginning of a new world for them, without their fancy clothes or expensive cars. But they've actually inherited something much more precious than a gold carat bracelet or expensive stiletto heels or a $5,000 Prada purse. No, they've received something a lot more precious than that. Their heritage, which they kind of somewhat got lost in due to their spoiled materialistic pasts. They've been just oozing off richness and jewelry, but they never really had time to adapt to their Latino culture, their Hispanic culture. So usually what they may have lost may have gained something that could probably mean more to them than an Armani. I'm sure this movie has been done before, but the whole story is a different take on a previous film starring the Duff sisters, Haley and Hilary Duff, called Material Girls. Although the plot really offers nothing new here, I would choose From Prada to Nada over Material Girls anytime, mainly because I would rather hear these sisters interact with each other. At least they don't have any kind of annoying over-the-top California Valley girl accents. I mean, like, whatever. I don't know. You know, that's the way they... And at least they're not trying to stereotype their voices. Sure, they could still kind of be a bit materialistic in their demeanor, but at least their accents are not as annoying, to say the least. Like Material Girls, the narrative of From Prada to Nada is generally the same story with a much more cultural twist to it. We have two wealthy upper-class socialite sisters who have everything they can dream of. Nora Dominguez, she's studying to become a lawyer. I guess that whatever money she has, she could still continue to pay her tuition and to get into college. And, hey, she's prompt to become a lawyer and she's starting to get a new job as a lawyer. So who knows? Maybe she would probably say who needs her daddy's inheritance when she could probably start making money of her own as a lawyer. Meanwhile, her more materialistic sister Mary spends most of the days around the richest part of Los Angeles buying every expensive item she can get her hands on. They ride on shiny, expensive cars, hang out with the most elite groups, and live in a big, fancy mansion. So one day after their father suddenly dies from a sudden heart attack right in front of them, and this is when the shit hits the fan. So when it came time for their will, the lawyer revealed that the only thing he left them was nothing but grief, when it was revealed that before his death, he was actually nearing bankruptcy but never had the heart to tell them. So suddenly, an illegitimate son arrives on the scene, and he and his wife, who are both stinking rich, eventually buy the house, and the two sisters are kicked out of the establishment. This is where the sisters journey into a new life that begins without the assistance of Ferraris or Armanis. Yes, they're going to have to go through such great sacrifices. They're going to have to enter something that will change their lives forever. Will it be for better? Well, there'll always be good days, and there will always be bad days. But then again, that's life. You can't really just go through such hasty conclusions without having a few good days and a few bad days to blend. Now, the movie claims that it's based off the novel Sense and Sensibility by English author Jane Austen, and I guess we can actually see some of the connections. I mean, many of the characters depicted in the movie seem to derive from the Jane Austen novel, and I'll take their word on it. The sisters move into their maternal aunts in the not so rich part of East Los Angeles, where they are no longer driving the Ferraris or wearing their Armanis. They are now going to have to adapt to their Hispanic culture that was never given to them by their rich father. They have been so preoccupied with their rich lifestyle, they never had a chance to have a taste of their Hispanic culture. And sure, their aunts don't particularly live in a big fancy mansion. They're still very well cultured and are still very proud of their old country and still bring that old country culture to them. And I think this is a bit of a life lesson that there is life out there aside from your Ferraris and your Armanis. Now, aside from that, they are also introduced to their intimidating neighbor across the street named Bruno, played by Wilmer Valderrama, who you may have remembered as Fez from that 70s show. He kind of looks like the stereotypical hoodlum from the ghettos. He wears a hoodie over his head. But to be underneath all that intimidating look with the hoodies and the tattoos, he is actually a really cool guy, a very sensitive individual, and a guy who uses spray cans, but not for vandalism, but for creating murals. He is an artist. Or at least he has aspirations to become an artist. He also seems very attracted to Mary, but at first she never gives him the time of day. But then she also soon realizes that, you can't really judge a book by its cover. So it turns out that, after her trying to get in on the good with her college professor, only to reveal that her college professor, who she seemed to be somewhat attracted to, well, it turns out that she should have realized that the guy was a married man. Maybe he never told her this, but maybe she never asked. So eventually she turns and starts to appreciate this Bruno character. Meanwhile, also Nora gets a job as an attorney, and she seems to be interested in this new attorney played by Nicholas D'Agosto. But as it turns out, this attorney is also the brother of the in-law to their brother Gabe, who kicked them out. Now, Nora, of course, also is somewhat attracted to this. I think his name was Edward. Yeah, that's his name. Edward Ferris, played by Nicholas D'Agosto. She is in love with him, but she also does not want her law profession or her law career to get into any ways of any kind of relationships. But as time goes on, we discover that this Edward Ferris is a really cool guy, a nice guy, and he also gives Nora and her sister a place of their own to stay within the realms of the East Los Angeles village, their own home. And, everything just seems to work out well for them in the end. So, at least I like the fact that this movie has a happy ending. I don't think we need to go on with the plot any further, but like every film where characters seems like they want to fit into a new way of life, there's always the familiar tropes that come with the narrative. They hate their new life at first, then they slowly adapt, and then they start to like those around them. They learn their lessons in life, and they become better individuals in their new journey. In this case, the sisters have developed confidence in themselves by taking control of their own accomplishments while also becoming adjusted to their Hispanic culture. They don't like the fact that they're moving to East Los Angeles because their pampered lifestyle is now completely expunged. They're entering a new life. They're entering a new form of living that doesn't require all the expenses that they have grown up with. And then once they start to adapt and start to appreciate their culture, they eventually start to love their culture, love their heritage, love their family, and everything just seems to work out very well. And while the movie flows very nicely, the plot is easy to move along to. It feels very much like some movie that you would likely see on the Hallmark Channel. But the main weakness of this movie here is that the plot does tend to become a bit too much by the numbers. You know when things transpire from a mile away. It's like if you've seen one romantic comedy, you likely see how things unfold in the end, which doesn't have any kind of unexpected surprise featured. And this movie doesn't have very much surprises. Everything always seems to work out with them in the end. And sure, this sisterly duo is better performed than the Duff sisters. It's only a small fragment better. At least they're not as annoying as the Duff sisters. It's something that we kind of expected. So although From Prada to Nada is a much better film than Material Girls, it's still far from anything great. There's nothing new to offer, and every scene just falls into place, and we all knew what was coming our way from miles beyond. But what makes up for the unoriginal plot is that the performances are well portrayed, and the cast fit nicely into the roles that were given to them. The settings were quite impressive, and the soundtrack has some very good songs on there. If you ever get the DVD, the extras are quite informative and impressive, showing that although unoriginal, a lot of heart was put into the making of this movie. And in the end, I do recommend you to see this movie from a cultural perspective. Just don't expect to roll your eyes with the "it's been there before" and not to show up. So therefore, with all that said and done, if I was to give this movie a scale out of 10, I would probably give From Prada to Nada, I would give it a 6 out of 10. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. But just remember the 3 simple rules. Be kind, be courteous, and please refrain from any rude comments. And I'll be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Correct Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.